How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz, and in today's video I'm going to be covering the Global Sinnoh Tour, the Road to Sinnoh event, and the in-person Sinnoh Tour in Los Angeles. Also, for those of you that are going to be visiting Los Angeles for the Sinnoh Tour event, I've actually lived here my whole entire life, so if you have any general city questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. That being said, though, we have so much to get through, so let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk about are going to be the current season bonuses, in particular that we get guaranteed extra large candy from trading Pokemon if you are level 31 or higher. And we also have an increased chance to get extra large candy from 5-star raids, in person only, but I'm assuming most of you guys are going to be doing the in-person raids during these events. So basically my recommendation here is to do your daily trades if possible, that way you can get as much extra large candy while freeing up storage space at the same time. Alright, that being said, let's jump straight into the Global Sinnoh Tour first, then we'll talk about the Road to Sinnoh Tour event, and then finally we'll end off with the LA event for those of you guys who are going to be attending. Now for the Global Sinnoh Tour, this is going to take place on February 24th and February 25th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. local time each day. Now the bonuses are going to be as follows. We're going to get the 1/2 incubator distance, we're going to get 6 special trades per day, and every trade that we do is also going to be 50% less than it normally is. And then finally, we're not going to have a remote raid pass limit from February 23rd to February 25th, but the price of these remote raid passes has not changed. I feel like that's really important to mention here. Like, as much as the remote raid pass limit is nice that it's being removed, I think one of the bigger issues is the price point of these remote raid passes. Now during the Global Sinnoh Tour, we're also going to get access to a special research that is Team Go Rocket themed. For some reason, we're actually going to be helping Team Go Rocket during this special research. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but supposedly you are supposed to get Spiritomb encounters from doing this, which is one of the rarest shinies to get in Pokemon Go. Now as far as the shiny Pokemon that are going to be released during the Sinnoh Tour event, we're going to get Pikachu with new hats, obviously, right? Now as far as the actual new shiny Pokemon, we're going to get the regionals Chatot, Pachirisu, and Carnivine. Those are all going to be available in 10-kilometer eggs. Now from the wild spawns, we're going to get access to Stunky, which was the only Pokemon in wild spawns that hadn't been released in Sinnoh. Now from the 2-kilometer eggs, we're going to get access to Chingling, which is going to be a new shiny. This does evolve into Chimecho. And then we're also going to be getting access to the shinies for his Swain Voltorb as well as Quillfish. Now, we're going to get Shiny Shaman, but this is going to be locked behind a Masterwork research ticket, which is going to cost $5. Now, if you're wondering if this ticket is actually worth it, this is one of the few times where I'm actually going to say that it is. The Masterwork researchers in Pokemon Go provide a ton of really awesome challenges, and the Shiny Shaman is actually pretty good if it does get Magical Leaf, which I'm pretty sure if you're getting it from the Masterwork research, it is going to have access to Magical Leaf. Now, that's important because in order for Shaman to be relevant in the grass type meta, it needs to have this moveset, and for some odd reason, Niantic has coded it into the game where you can only get certain Shaman with Magical Leaf. I don't know why that is, but yeah, that's apparently the way that it's coded currently. You can't even Elite TM to get it. And then finally, we're also going to get access to Origin Form, Dialga, and Palkia. We're going to talk about these Pokemon more in detail later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. Now, what are the Pokemon that we're actually missing from the Sinnoh region? Because normally during these tour events, we get access to every single available Pokemon with their shiny form. But unfortunately, I think this is the first time where that's not going to be the case. Manaphy and Phione are not going to be available, and Arceus is also not going to be available. Apparently, they're supposed to be coming in later events. I don't really love that because it's a Sinnoh Tour, but hey, it is what it is, and this is Pokemon Go and Niantic at the end of the day. We kind of know what they're about. Now, to be honest, when it comes down to Arceus, this doesn't really surprise me that much because the release of this specific Pokemon is such a big deal, and just to group it in together with the Sinnoh Tour event, I can see why they wanted to separate it. Manaphy and Phione, though, I can't really understand that one. Let's go ahead and move on over to the spawns for this event, though, specifically from the habitats. Now we're going to have a total of 4 habitats. The first one is going to be the Bursting Boardwalk from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then again from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. These are all going to be off your local time zones, by the way. Now obviously you want to shiny check every single Pokemon you run into, but when it comes down to Pokemon you want to candy grind, specifically from this habitat, I would focus on Magnemite, Electabuzz, and Ralts. The next habitat is going to be the Ancient Grove from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then again from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Now when it comes down to this habitat, I would either focus on grinding Eevee Candy or Tangela Candy. Personally speaking, I am probably going to go with the Eevee Candy grinding because I want to get every single Eevee evolution to level 50 at some point, and I still have a ways to go. Our next habitat is going to be the Toxic Digs habitat. This one is going to be available from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. and then again from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Now when it comes down to Pokemon you want to focus on, this habitat definitely has a lot more than the previous two that we just talked about. You have access to Gligar, Sneasel, Cranidos, Shieldon, Stunky, as well as Gibble. Gibble is going to be the MVP if you guys don't actually have Garchomp yet. It is so good. Like, seriously, Gibble is such an amazing Pokemon. So definitely make sure to focus on all the Pokemon I just mentioned. A lot of them have relevance in PvP as well as the raid/gym meta. For example, Gligar is more PvP, Sneasel is more raid/gym meta, Cranidos is raid/gym meta, Shieldon is going to be PvP, and then finally Gible is more raid/gym meta but also has relevance in the Master League PvP meta. Now finally, our last habitat is going to be the Geothermal Lagoon from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and then again from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. This one you're going to have access to Pokemon like Rhyhorn, Swinub, and Snover. Now when Rhyhorn evolves into Rhyperior and it gets access to Rock Wrecker, which is going to be its Calm Day exclusive moveset, it makes it such a good rock type attacker to use in the raid/gym meta. We do have access to Shadow Rhyhorn currently, so stockpiling some extra large candy for this Pokemon, especially for the Shadow. Like, it's up there with Mega Tyranitar, so yeah, definitely Pokemon I would really be grinding for. Now Swinub evolves into Mamoswine in its final evolution, and this one is really good in the Master League as well as in the raid/gym meta as an ice type attacker and also as a ground type attacker too. It's not that bad. And then finally Snover will evolve into Obama and currently the ice type meta doesn't really have that many good mega Pokemon, so when it comes down to it, Mega Obama is actually one of the best ice type megas you can have in the game. Not to mention, if you power it up to around level 45, you can also use it in the Ultra League as well. Next up, let's talk about the Incense encounters. It's basically just going to be access to a ton of different unknown letters, which is pretty awesome considering that this is going to be a free bonus. Normally the unknown letters are locked behind having a ticket. Now during the Bursting Boardwalk and Toxic Digs habitats, we're going to have unknown letters spelling out Sinnoh, and then during the Ancient Grove and Geothermal Lagoon habitats, we're going to have unknown letters spelling out Hisui. And I feel like I should mention this as well, but every single one of these unknown letters can be shiny. Next up, let's talk about the available Pokemon from 2 km, 5 km, and 10 km eggs. So from 2 km eggs, we're going to have access to Badoo, Chingling, Bonsly, Mime Jr., Happiny, Munchlax, Riolu, and Mantike. Every single one of these Pokemon can be shiny, and these actually are among the rarer of the shiny baby Pokemon, so if you are able to get one that isn't Badoo, then that's definitely going to be a win. Now for 5 km eggs, we're going to have access to Hisuian Voltorb, Hisuian Quillfish, Stunky, and Gible. All of those are actually pretty good Pokemon to potentially get shiny, because 3 of them are going to be new shinies, and then getting Gible shiny is always a pleasure. And then finally, from 10 km eggs, we're going to have access to Pachirisu, Chatot, and Carnivine. Normally all 3 of these Pokemon are going to be regionals, and this is going to be the first time that they're all going to have their shiny forms available, so pretty good to get 10 km eggs as well. All around, the eggs are actually looking pretty good for this event, and for those of you guys who've been watching my channel for a long time, you know that I rarely ever say this. Next up, let's talk about the raid battle. So we're going to talk about 3-star raids first. So specifically during these 2 habitats, the Bursting Boardwalk and the Toxic Digs, we're going to have access to the Sinnoh starter evolutions, Torterra, Infernape, and Apollyon. And then during the Ancient Grove and Geothermal Lagoon, we're going to have access to the Swain starter evolutions, Decidueye, Typhlosion, and Samurott. Now when it comes down to the meta relevance of all 6 of these Pokemon, I don't really think that there is that much. I mean, maybe there is some play. Actually, Apollyon is pretty good in the Ultra League. I do like Apollyon. But for the rest of them, I mean, not so much. And I really hate to say that because Typhlosion is my boy, but it's just not that good in PvP or the raid/gym meta. Now, if you weren't able to participate in these raid days over the past few months, it's going to be a great time to potentially get the shiny forms. I don't believe they're going to be boosted at 1 out of 10 like they were, but still, it's definitely going to be a good opportunity for those that weren't able to participate in those raid days. Moving on though, let's talk about the legendary raids next. So we're going to have access to Dialga and Palkia obviously, and then of course their origin forms as well. Pretty similar to how the other habitats work. During the Bursting Boardwalk and Toxic Digs, we're going to have access to the regular Dialga and Palkia that we all know, and then during the Ancient Grove and Geothermal Lagoon, we're going to have access to the origin forms for Dialga and Palkia. And yes, they can all be shiny. Now of course we are also going to be getting adventure effects, which are going to be a new feature in Pokemon Go for origin form Dialga and Palkia. You can only have 1 effect active at a time, kind of similar to how Mega Pokemon work. You can only have 1 Mega Evolution active at a time. Now depending on which version you actually choose, you will either get a free Dialga or a free Palkia from this event. So if you want to get Dialga, go with Diamond. If you want to get Palkia, go with Pearl. Now outside of this, the only other way to get them with this moveset is to raid them, and the moveset is not even going to be guaranteed. So Niantic has of course not disclosed the odds, and they're probably not going to be that good. Like, this is kind of their whole gotcha effect, right? Where they just want you to raid as much as possible to potentially get the shiny with the moveset. That would be ideal, but we have no idea how rare that's actually going to be. But wait, I'm not done yet. You also cannot Elite TM to get these moves even after the event, and you cannot transfer these Pokemon to Pokemon Home. So while there are a lot of restrictions when it comes down to origin form Dialga and Palkia, I still think it's pretty cool that you are able to at least get 1 depending on which version you pick. Now that being said though, let's talk about the adventure effects and what they actually do. So Dialga is going to get access to Roar of Time, and the effect is going to be that it's going to pause the time on the following items: Incense plus Daily Incense, Lucky Eggs, and Star Pieces. The timer is going to be for 6 minutes each every single time you do one of these power-ups, and you can extend this up to 24 hours. The cost is going to be 5,000 Stardust and 5 Dialga Candy every 6 minutes. Now for Palkia, it's going to get access to Spatial Rend, and the effect is going to be an increased distance radius. We don't know exactly how big the distance radius is going to be, like we can kind of see it in the video, but it doesn't really do it justice. Now the timer for this is going to be a little bit longer than Dialga's. It's going to be 10 minutes long, and of course you can also extend this one up to 24 hours, and the cost is going to be the same, except it's going to be Palkia Candy instead of Dialga Candy. So 5,000 Stardust and 5 Palkia Candy for every 10 minutes. Now of course you're probably wondering though, which one is actually the better option to go with, because if you're going to get one guaranteed for sure depending on which version you pick, well then obviously you want to make sure that you pick the right version in case you can't actually get it from the raid battles, which again, let's be honest here, it's probably pretty low of a chance that you're going to be able to get it from the raid battles. It's honestly really tough to tell which one's actually going to be better because there's a lot of good arguments for both, but if I had to pick one, I kind of am leaning towards Palkia just because of the increased distance radius. Like, you guys underestimate how many more Pokemon spawns you can get just by having access to something like this. Like, let's say you go to a parking lot and you use the Palkia special effect, like you can probably hit the entire parking lot worth of spawns, which is gonna be tons, guys. Now again, like that's gonna give you more Stardust. You can also have Star Pieces and Lucky Eggs active on top of that. That being said though, I would love to hear your own takes in the comment section down below. Let me know which one you guys actually think is better and why. So with that being said, that's basically gonna cover everything for the Global Sinnoh Tour. Now let's talk about the Road to Sinnoh Tour event. Now for this event, we're not gonna have a whole lot going on. The bonuses are gonna be that we have 1/2 incubator distance during the event. We're also gonna get access to an increased remote raid pass limit to 10 per day, but again, there's no price decrease here, so I don't really see the appeal. Now we're also going to get time to research for encounters with Heatran, Giratina, Cresselia, and Darkrai. Now as far as the spawns go during this event, we're going to have access to these Sinnoh starters and their second stage forms. Now for those of you who remember what it's like to catch starter Pokemon, it's really difficult. They typically have very bad catch rates, so don't waste too many of your Ultra Balls catching these starter Pokemon during this event. Save your Ultra Balls for the Global Sinnoh Tour. That's going to make a bigger difference, trust me, because you don't want to waste your Pokeballs. I mean, you could always restock, but it's really hard to get Ultra Balls in game. It always takes a lot longer. So save the Ultra Balls for the Global Sinnoh Tour. Use your Pokeballs and Great Balls during this event because you can restock those a lot easier, but honestly, I wouldn't even spend too much time worrying about the spawns during this event. Spawns aside though, let's talk about the Legendary Raid Pool, because this one's actually going to be kind of crazy. So for every single Legendary that I'm about to talk about, their shiny forms will be available as well. Our first Legendary in rotation is going to be Darkrai from February 15th to February 20th. Now this is a good Dark type attacker, but we're still waiting on its signature move, Dark Void. Now Darkrai is a mythical Pokemon though, which means the only way to get it would be from doing raid battles. Now in my opinion, I think it's definitely worth raiding for this hundo and even potentially for the shiny, because you can always just Elite TM it later to get Dark Void, and I still feel like that's a viable strategy given that you can't actually trade for this Pokemon, so the only way to get it is from raid battles, guys. And yeah, that's basically it when it comes down to Darkrai. I would focus on it if you can. Now next up, we're going to have Cresselia from February 20th to February 21st. Now the only reason to actually raid Cresselia is if it has access to Grass Knot, which it will, just during raid hour only. From February 21st to February 22nd, we're going to have access to Uxie, Mesprit, and itself. Now from February 22nd to February 23rd, we're going to have access to Heatran, pretty similar to Cresselia here. Like the only reason to raid this is if it had access to Magma Storm, which it will, just during raid hour only. Now, Giratina Origin is going to be available from February 23rd to February 26th, so pretty much for the entire weekend of the Global Sinnoh Tour, alongside Dialga and Palkia. Now, Giratina is one of the best ghost type attackers in the game, and we rarely ever get this Pokemon in rotation, so this is actually one that I would highly recommend focusing on raiding. And then, of course, we already talked about this, but Dialga and Palkia will be available with their Origin forms during the Global Sinnoh Tour event during February 24th and February 25th. I would highly recommend raiding Dialga and Palkia really hard during this event, because if you guys do want to use those adventure effect bonuses, you're going to need a lot of candy for these Pokemon. Now finally for this event, we're going to have access to 2 tickets. They're both going to be $5 each. We're going to have access to a raid ticket as well as a hatch ticket. So for the raid ticket, it's going to include bonuses that will last every day until February 25th at 6 p.m. local time. To start things off, you're going to get a research with 5 to 10 candy on every single Sinnoh legendary Pokemon, probably for completing really basic tasks. You're also going to get 5,000 experience additionally from completing raid battles, and you're also going to get 1 additional candy from catching legendary Pokemon from 5-star raids, as well as 2 additional free passes every single day until the 25th. So in my opinion, the raid ticket is definitely worth it. I mean, alone you're going to get 2 additional free passes every single day for 7 days. That's already a $14 value right there for a $5 ticket. The Global Sinnoh Tour weekend will also be a great time to do raids, so the additional experience and candy will be a nice cherry on top. Now for the $5 hatch ticket, you're going to have access to event exclusive timed research, as well as 2 times hatch experience, candy, and stardust. Now, one thing I do want to mention for this hatch ticket is that I believe you're also going to have an increased chance to get 10-kilometer eggs, which will have the shiny regionals potentially. So if you guys are trying to hunt those down, the hatch ticket is probably going to be worth it. Now I do also want to mention that both of these tickets can be gifted, so it's definitely a nice incentive if you want to get your friends to come out and play with you during the event. That being said though, that's pretty much going to cover the Road to Sinnoh Tour event. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below, but now let's talk about the LA in-person event. Now for those who have been asking, yes, I will be attending the Sinnoh Tour event in LA in person. My event day is going to be on Saturday. Now this event is going to be a lot different than the global event, so we're going to actually have space-time anomalies during the last 30 minutes of every single hour. So basically this is when Pokemon from the Hisuian region will start appearing. This also includes Origin from Dialga and Palkia and raid battles as well. Now as far as the bonuses go, we're going to get access to 1/2 incubator distance like we did during the other events. We're going to get access to 6 special trades per day, which is pretty awesome. Also, every single trade is going to cost 50% less Stardust, which is pretty nice as well. And then we're also going to get 9 free raid passes, but you have to use these during the event. If you don't use them during the event, then they're unfortunately going to be lost. And then finally, we're going to get a boosted shiny rate on every single Pokemon available, which is always awesome. That makes the experience so much more fun. Next up, let's talk about the add-ons. You guys can actually purchase these after you bought your ticket. So if at any point you decide later on, oh hey, like maybe I want to get the Raid Lover add-on or the Enthusiast add-on, well, you guys have until Sunday, February 18th to decide that. So for those of you guys who got access to the city portion, like let's say your event day was on Saturday like mine was, and you wanted to get the city portion as well with the Raid Lover add-on or the Enthusiast add-on, that could actually be pretty fun, especially because you're going to have access to the entirety of LA, which just has so much stuff around it. Now I'm sure you guys probably have a lot of questions like what exactly are these add-ons, how much do they cost, and are they even worth it? Now these add-ons are going to be $15 each. The first one is going to be a Raid Lover add-on. You're going to get 18 additional free raid passes to use during the entirety of the event, so from Friday to Sunday. It's not going to be 18 raid passes each day though, it's just going to be like in total. Now you're also going to get 5,000 experience additionally for completing raid battles, and you're also going to get 6 additional candy for catching legendary Pokemon from 5-star raids, and you're also going to get 3 additional extra large candy from catching these legendary Pokemon as well. So for those of you who are going to be grinding out the Dialga and Palkia during the weekend, the Raid Lover add-on definitely seems worth it just for the candy bonuses alone. Now what about the Enthusiast? What do you get from this one? So you're going to get access to 1/4 hatch distance. Unfortunately though, this does not stack with the other 1/2 incubator distance, so it's just going to take priority over that other one. You're also going to get access to 3 times hatch experience, candy, and Stardust from hatching eggs, which is pretty awesome. You're also going to get an increased chance of getting 10-kilometer eggs from PokeStops, and like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the best ways to get a chance of getting the shiny regional Pokemon, so if that is your goal and you're a shiny hunter, this is definitely going to be worth it. And once again, you guys don't have to get these add-ons right away. If at any point during the event, especially when you're playing the city portion, you decide, hey, like I actually do want to get these add-ons now, you can always go in and purchase them. Now, of course, during the LA event, we are going to have some differences, but there are going to be a lot of similarities as well. So when it comes down to habitats, these are going to be the comparable ones. For Entangled Ruins, it's going to be like the Ancient Grove. For Seaside Metropolis, it's going to be like Bursting Boardwalk. For Bubbling Mire, that's going to be like Toxic Digs. And then for the Mountain Hot Springs, it's going to be like the Geothermal Lagoon. And pretty much the encounters are going to be the same as the Global Sinnoh Tour, so for anything that I just talked about earlier on in the video, just reference back to that. For the Incense encounters, it's pretty much going to be the same thing as well. For the Unknown, we're going to have Sinnoh, and then for the Unknown during the Space-Time Anomaly, we're going to have Hisui. Now once again, for the Space-Time Anomalies, these are going to take place at the end of every hour during the last 30 minutes. Now one really cool feature during this event, and maybe I shouldn't even call it a feature because you can actually find the Lake Guardians in the wild just by itself, but during this event, I'm pretty sure we're going to have an improved chance of actually running into them. So you guys can actually find Uxie, Azelf, and Mesprit in the wild, and they can potentially be shiny. Now I did actually hear that if you take a snapshot with them, you're also going to get a bonus encounter during the event, so don't forget to do that. Now, we're also going to get Spiritomb PokeStops all around LA. Like, literally, they're from LA County to Orange County. That is a very wide radius, guys. You need to spend 10 of these to get 10 encounters with Spiritomb, which again, we talked about earlier. Spiritomb is one of the rarest shinies to get in Pokemon Go. Now let's talk about the city experience and how you want to prioritize this. So first of all, your spawns are going to be a combination of everything. They're not going to be limited to habitats. And from personal experience going to other in-person events, this is definitely the superior experience of the two during events like this. this. Habitats are just way too limited in my opinion. And again, like the spawns are going to range from LA County to Orange County. That is a massive radius. Now for those of you who are going to be traveling into LA, you're probably wondering, well, where are the best places to play Pokemon Go during the city portion? I actually have a few spots I'm going to recommend. The first one is going to be Santa Monica, but it's not Santa Monica Pier as most of you guys would expect. It's actually going to be Santa Monica 3rd Street. The pier is pretty nice, but it's usually way too crowded and service is kind of spotty there, so in my opinion, the preferred place to play is going to be 3rd Street, which has a lot of stops, shops, and restaurants nearby. Parking can kind of be difficult the closer you get to the pier, so just a heads up on that. So for me personally, I try to park a little bit further away from 3rd Street. There's usually a bunch of parking garages a little bit further back, and then you can just walk down to 3rd Street. It's really not that far away. Now you could also take an Uber to this area, and if you want to go and check out the pier as well, that's probably going to be the best way to do it. The next place I'm going to recommend is going to be downtown Disney and Disneyland. There are going to be a lot of PokeStops here in and outside of the park. Now personally speaking, I am not a huge Disneyland person, but every single one of my ex-girlfriends has always been a huge Disneyland person, so I've always gotten sucked into going there. At least now there's Pokemon Go, so it's a little bit more viable for someone like me. That being said though, for those of you guys who love Pokemon and Disney, it's going to be a win-win for you. Now our third spot is going to be CSUN, California State University Northridge. This is actually an open college campus. You guys can just pay for parking inside. There's like plenty of school lots, and you can just stay there for the whole day. It is such a nice campus, guys. It's very wide and open. There's plenty of PokeStops all around you. I actually spent a few years here for school, and it was such an awesome experience. Highly recommend it. The community is also very friendly there. Now finally, our last spot is going to be where I personally play Pokemon Go during events like Community Day, and that's going to be on Main Street in Newhall. This is going to be a little bit further north from LA, about maybe 40 minutes, but it's definitely worth going up there. There's a really nice driving loop around these two streets where you guys can actually hit over 25 PokeStops in just 5 minutes. You can also walk along Main Street and hit plenty of stops there as well if you don't want to do the driving loop, but in my opinion, the driving loop is superior in that spot. There's also going to be plenty of great restaurants and shops around here as well. The city has kind of been gentrifying this spot, so it's great for non-locals. Now, personally speaking, if you guys love margaritas and even carne asada fries, Dario's down the street is one of my favorite restaurants nearby. I love going there. Their ultimate margarita is probably one of my favorite margaritas to get anywhere. And yeah, definitely a great spot. Now, another spot I want to recommend is going to be El Pariente on Main Street, which has amazing street tacos. Like seriously, they're so freaking good, man. And they're only going to be $2 each, so they're really affordable. So, I mean, those are my personal two favorite spots near the area, and there's plenty of other things as well. There's really fancy restaurants, there's a lot of breweries, there's some wine places. Now, finally, let's go over the Rose Bowl experience portion of the event. What do you want to pack? What do you want to have ready to go during the event? I would recommend bringing a backpack, portable chargers. Anchor's a really good brand, 2 charging cables just in case one of them does break. Sometimes that happens, right? And you don't want to be stuck without a cable during an event like this. Bring snacks, bring a hydro flask or like a water bottle or something like that. Make sure that you guys are hydrating throughout the day. I would also pack food, maybe something like sandwiches. The reason I say this is because during events like this, guys, like to get food, it is such a pain. Either you got to go to a food truck, which has a huge line and just waste a ton of time during the day, or you got to find a different location and that can take some time to go back and forth. Honestly, if you just make some sandwiches the night before, refrigerate them, pack them, get them ready to go, this is going to be a lot more cost affordable and you won't have to wait in any lines or sacrifice grind time during the event. Now for those of you guys who don't want to pack food and you want to actually go out to eat somewhere because LA just has a lot of really awesome spots to eat at, I totally understand that. I would try to find a place that actually takes reservations though. That way you can actually for sure guarantee that you're gonna have a place to go eat and it's not gonna be like super crowded, because trust me, during events like this, these places fill up really fast. I feel like this one probably doesn't have to be said, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen. Make sure that you guys are gonna be wearing sunscreen during an event like this. It's gonna be 8 hours of walking ideally, and yeah, that is a lot of walking. Now on the flip side of that, there's a small chance that it may be raining during that weekend, at least maybe during one of the days, so if possible, pack an umbrella as well. Now finally, the last thing to go over is that this is gonna be a marathon, guys. It is not a race. Take plenty of breaks, sit down. Some people may be hustling the whole day, but that doesn't have to be you. Go at your own pace. There is no rush. Like, trust me, during events like this, it is perfectly fine to take breaks and, you know, go get something to eat, drink some water, just sit down for like 15 minutes. Like, it's totally okay. I do it all the time, and I still get plenty of shinies during events like this. Like, there are going to be some people who really want to make the most out of it, and there's going to be some people who probably don't make enough out of it. But try to find a nice balance in between. Like, definitely go out and grind, but also don't be afraid to just stop and chill for a while too. With that being said though, that pretty much covers everything I need to go over in this video. If you guys have any additional questions about the city itself, please let me know in the comment section down below. I have lived here my entire life, so I know a lot of really good spots. And if you're looking for some more content, I'm going to recommend these 2 videos right here. But before you go, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one.